Well, you see, in those days, because we didn't have a car, nobody had a car, we had no television, we had a wireless, which was wonderful, we loved the wireless, but we were always out. Gladstone Park was our stomping ground. There was a swimming pool there, open air swimming pool, wonderful swing park with all sorts of exciting and probably quite dangerous swings, which I know are not there now. There was a duck pond. There was a bandstand.
Now there is still a duck pond at the top near the house.
Wonderful, and the house, of course, was original. That was a hospital once upon a time.
That is sadly
in the First
getting
World War.
torn down.
I saw that was the case, which is very sad. And my sister had her 21st birthday in there, so that's wonderful. Sadly, she died. So my memories are very strong of her, and she was in fact the carnival queen of Willesden.
Now you said that I've not heard of this, because obviously we don't have carnivals or anything anymore.
No, but we did then. It was a big thing.
So what were they exactly?
They were a celebration with floats and young children and playing, and because we had an empire in those days, so we were reenacting our roots, where we came from, and all the parts of the empire that belonged to Britain in those days. We really were Great Britain, and Empire Day was celebrated, so Willesden Carnival was a regular celebration.
You said Empire Day, so
Empire Day.
What day was that? Was it the same day every year, or?
Oh yes, yes, just as St George's Day, April the 23rd. I no longer remember when Empire Day was, but we
summer sometime, I assume.
Yes, always put on a really big thing, and I was nearly always Britannia because I had long blonde flowing hair and would sit with a trident, and my minions would come up to me and pay homage. You know, Bermuda, Canada, Australia, all the parts of the empire which sadly are not ours, South Africa, Rhodesia, they all belong to the empire, you see. So we would reenact Great Britain being the parent, you see. A bit like Queen Victoria. But the Carnival Queen was something that was a regular thing for Willesden Carnival, and we had races and sports and dog shows and cake making thing, and my sister was the Carnival Queen, and the beautiful carriage, and it was a traditional old style carriage,
like a horse-drawn.
Yes, came down this road and it stopped outside, and my sister got into it. And you know, she looked beautiful, and
how did she get made the queen?
Photographs were sent in to the Willesden Chronicle, which may still be around, and I have a feeling one of the no, perhaps not. No, perhaps it's not a local, but it may be that it is a local. No, it says Daily Chronicle, so it's not the Willesden Chronicle. However, the Willesden Chronicle was a big factor and reported everything that went on in Cricklewood. So photographs were sent in of girls in the age group, I think it was perhaps 16 to 21, and then they would be voted. So you would then have the last 10, and then the last 5, and then the last 3.
So it's kind of like a beauty pageant, but through the paper.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And my sister was chosen. She was just 17 years old, and that was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And she had a boyfriend in the RAF, and he was there in his RAF uniform, which was tremendous. But you see, we really were such a close community. Today, it's different. People have cars, they're at work all the time. But in the war and after, everyone knew one another. They were in each other's houses. We helped each other in every way. If there was a banana delivery up in King's, which was the greengrocer in the Broadway, somebody would go running down, knock on the doors, bananas in King's, and we'd all run. I mean, Mother would throw our coats on and we'd run up the road and queue and maybe get one banana. Because there was an allocation, and when the allocation was given out, that's it. So, you see, to get a banana was tremendous. So, everyone would run together. So of course we knew each other. Of course we did. We were in the shelter together. We went to Smith's together. We went to the local clinic together. And later, of course, we went to school together. And whether you were religious and believed in God or not was irrelevant. You all went to church. So the church was an enormous community factor.
Is this the church that's opposite the school? Okay,
St Michael's. Yeah. It was the school church. Okay. The Brownies were there. I belonged to the Brownies, later the Guides. And in adult life I became a guide leader. I went to camp every year. We had bazaars. We had everything went on in that church. On Mother's Day, it wasn't called that, it was Mothering Sunday. Your mother went with you to church and little bouquets, not bouquets, posies of flowers were handed out by the children to their mothers, all provided by the church.
Oh, wow.
Christmas you went, everything, Harvest Festival, you took your contributions of vegetables and placed them on the steps of the church. So you see, you knew everybody, you walked everywhere. And although my father did have a car later, because when the war was over, he went back to his job as, it was called a commercial traveller, so he had a car. But that was a one-off, no one else had cars. And certainly all through the war years, there wouldn't even have been petrol, let alone cars, it was out of the question. So it meant that you knew everybody and they knew you. And the park, we all knew the park, inside out, back to front. I spent half my life in the library and they used to have little swing type barriers along the front. How can I explain it? Chains.
Oh, right,
chains.
Yes, okay.
And of course we used to swing on those. It was all fun, you see.
Yeah.
And I used to read avidly. And I'd get a book in the morning, rush home, read it, take it back in the afternoon, and they'd say, "You can't have read this, Valerie." I said, "But I have."
Yeah.
No, that's not fun. You must bring it back tomorrow. Right. My face would fall. But I'm just explaining that this small area, it was everything. We had the school, we had the church, there was the water board. Perhaps it's still there opposite the church.
So actually I was going to ask you about that, because the water tower is definitely still there, and it's still... You can't go in though. I actually did write to them once to go in, but it's still there. It's all fenced off.
Yes. And Cricklewood Broadway, you were registered for your food, so you knew all the shopkeepers, and they knew you. To this moment, I know the number that I had to give in the co-op because you were registered, 811623. And I would have been all of 6 or 7 when I went up to get the shopping. But you shopped specifically in the shop where you were registered. You didn't shop around, you see. So your meat was in this. And we had a co-op and we had a Sainsbury's. But it wasn't Sainsbury's as you would know today. It was a counter where you chose your bacon and you queued up. Then you went to the next counter and queued up for the cheese.
So like an individual farmer's market almost.
Yes, almost. Okay, that's quite right. And then you had your little book of coupons and they would mark the coupons so that you only had the amount you were entitled to.
So I have to ask you, talking of shopping and things, there's so up near the post office, which I forget the name of the road, it might be Oaklands Road.
Oaklands.
Up the top. Anyway,
up there,
there's a little, there's a couple of old carts, look like they would have been horse and carts, and they sell vegetables from them, and it's still there. And someone told me that they were there.
They were there. Truly, they were there. And Barclays Bank is still up there on the corner of Chicheley Road and the Broadway, and that is where I had my first job when I left school at 16.
Wow.
That's where I went for my job. And I passed the scholarship, which was a wonderful achievement in those days. So I went to a grammar school, which was very special, you know. And so did my brother, and so did my sister. So we considered ourselves very lucky for that.
And was that in this area then as well? Or
it was in Kilburn.
In Kilburn,
It was in Kilburn, yes. Okay. So we caught the 16 bus from the Crown. So we walked from here up to the Broadway, caught the bus,
By the way, if you've not seen it, the Crown has had a rejuvenation.
Has it?
Yeah, it's actually really nice inside now.
That's
again,
good.
they've done
I have
it
to
up.
say I'd never been in it.
Yeah, no, it's
But my father didn't drink, so we never ever went in a pub, so I never saw it inside.
Yeah.
But the buses used to say Crown Cricklewood. And when you reached there, they would call that out, Crown Cricklewood. So everybody knew the Crown, whether you went there, you know. But those carts, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's remarkable.
That's where we buy our veggies from. On, you know, if we ever need a little bit extra, and we always hop up at the weekend.
There all that time, and the post office then, if that's still on the, that has been there all those years too.
Wow.
And when I worked at the bank, I used to take the post as the young girl to that post office, you know. It was a small community, you see, and everybody knew you, and you knew them. And it was a wonderful time, albeit that the war years were terrifying. Of course they were, but not for children. It was fun. And of course we had deliveries of milk with a horse and cart.
Now tell me about this, because you said something that fascinated me in the your email, which was about the horse like just eating people's gardens.
Yes, because we had a great big laurel bush in the front there and several other things. And when the milkman parked, the horse, which was pretty high, would come over the hedge, and anything that was within his reach would be eaten.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and the Coleman also had a horse.
Okay.
We had a baker. I mean, everything was delivered. You see, and they all had horses. The later exception was there was a sort of contraption, like an electric cart, that actually the milkman then had.
I think when I first moved here 15 years ago, you could still get milk delivered, and it was one of those like
electric sort of funny
high-pitched noise.
Funny sound. You would know that. But originally it was all horses, and my father used to pay my brother and I 6pence if we went and got a bucket of manure for him to put in the garden.
Okay.
Because he grew goodness knows what in the garden, and we still had chickens, and we had a parrot who used to regularly escape, and there was a tree in the house, the one I spoke about on the corner there. It was called a monkey puzzle tree. I've already looked, it's not there anymore.
I know
but
that
it
kind
was.
of trees, wow.
And this parrot, green parrot, used to fly up in this tree regularly as clockwork, you know, and it was left to the man of that house and my father to try and coax it down, which we kids thought was hilarious, totally hilarious.
I bet you the parrot thought it was hilarious as well.
I'm sure that's true, I'm sure. So you see, all my memories are fun, everyone. And even at school, when we went into the shelters there, it still seemed like fun because we weren't having the lessons. We were just in there, and perhaps the teacher would read to us or something. We had a maypole set up in the middle of the playground.
Now, is our maypole, is this like a pole that you tie ribbons around?
Yes, it is exactly that.
Okay.
And we became pretty skilled at that, boys and girls.
Okay.
There was no problems about, boys don't do things like that.
And so it was like a sort of folk dancing thing?
Yes. Okay. Yes, it was. And you would weave in and out and create a marvellous creation with the coloured ribbons. And that was done on any sort of, like Empire Day, as I've said, or any other celebratory day. Pageants, things like that. And I quite clearly remember in that playground rushing to hold the hand of a little girl who was black. The first little black girl we had ever seen in the school.
Wow.
I can't remember my age, maybe 6, 7, possibly even a bit more. And we all rushed to hold her hand because we thought that if we held her hand, the black would come off of her onto us. We had no conception of what it meant to be coloured. We'd only seen pictures of the empire. Of Zulus and such like.
She would have almost been like a celebrity.
She was. She was. We all wanted to hold this little girl's hand. And so that was extraordinary when you think.
So did she came to actually
at
your school
to the school.
To stay
she was the one and only girl and stayed that way for a long, long time. And that was amazing when you think back of the memories of that. And I can quite clearly remember the headmistress, Miss Huckle, her name was. You see how vivid it is to me that I remember that. And I was only in the infants for a short time.
Gosh,
I still remember
I have to admit, I can't remember that well of my childhood, and I'm regretting it now. I should have paid more attention. This is fascinating.
And she introduced her. I couldn't think of the little girl's name now. But it was that exciting. You see, that's the difference the years have wrought to us. And of course I remember too, on birthdays, this was wonderful. We were taken to Lyons Corner House for our birthday.
I've heard these were like sort of fancy tea shops.
Yes, they were.
Okay.
That's just what they were. And they would have a band. Often it would be a girls' band. There was Ivy Benson and her band. And they would play Happy Birthday for you if your father or mother asked.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. You know, as you said, tea was served, and you were the celebrity because it was your birthday.
Was there one of these in Cricklewood?
There was a Lyons tea house, but it was not a Lyons corner house, and there was a difference.
Okay.
The Lyons ordinary tea shop was like a canteen.
Okay. Right.
So yes, that was there for many, many years, but Lyons corner house was at Marble Arch.
Okay.
And that was really special. There were many others, but that was the one that we went to because it was straight down through Kilburn.
Somebody went.
Are we neglecting you?
Hang on, I'll pause there.